Hello, everyone. Welcome to Opinions New by Dr. Frank Tianche and Frank. In this episode, I want to talk about the issue of what kind of people are supporting either Trump or Biden. Okay? Or more specifically, I want to see the atheists versus believers who support Trump and Biden, and use the chi-squared analysis on social media data. Okay? Well, we know today is October the 30th, and we know that the election is only 3 days away. Right? It's the final week, and the campaign team for President Trump and the former Vice President Biden, they're working hard in those swing states, and they're trying to seek support from American voters. Yeah, I'm sure one thing that bothers or concerns the campaign managers and observers of American politics, and also American, voters, of course, is that exactly what kind of people are in support of Trump and what kind of people are in support of Biden. Okay? So therefore, if they know that, they can design their campaign strategies to get enough vote. So these two candidates, one of them, could get at least 270 votes in the electoral college, okay? And therefore wins the presidency. Okay? And in this study, actually used some social media data and did a very simple yet very powerful and useful analysis called chi-squared analysis, chi-squared analysis. And I found something quite interesting, I believe, right? So the conclusion is the Trump supporters and Biden supporters, they are actually different, statistically significantly different with respect to their belief, right? So if you look at this, what kind of people are in support of which candidate, either Biden or Trump, many institutions, agencies have done numerous researches, numerous analysis, right? Some of the analysis, you don't really need the statistics or numbers. You can do that by merely observe and analyze, and you can come up with some conclusions, even though limited conclusions. For example, we know Amish people, American Amish people, right? They're very conservative, and they don't normally come out to vote, right? But this year they come out to vote. They come out to vote because they found that the name of Trump is actually in accordance with something in the Bible, in the words triumph, right? And therefore they believe in Trump is the chosen person, is chosen one to lead America into the next years and decades. Okay? So of course, for these people, about 300,000 of them, American Amish people, they already show their voting tendency, clearly. Okay? And there's also a report by British media that they're saying that the witches from Europe, they are in action. I'm not joking, right? There's no joke. It's indeed true. Thousands of witches from all over the world, they're gathering on the internet, and they plan to do something on the day of Halloween's day, to cite their spells and do their tricks, and to condemn and to hope to make Trump campaign a failure, right? And they call their actions a blue wave, right? Corresponding to the blue color of the Democrats. Right? The World Witches Organization has over 6,000 members. Okay? You can see this American election affects actually so many people worldwide. This is really unprecedented, it seems to me. Okay? But let's set aside this is a small group, small, unique entities or group or organizations. Okay? I think it's generally believed that this year's election, is not just the fight between two candidates, right? It's not the fight between two political parties, and it's really a fight between the giant battle between two world views and two ideologies, and even two groups of the entire population. I think it's really the battle between righteous and evil, good and evil. It seems to me. Okay? As if you might have noticed that the U.S. Newsweek, the U.S. magazine Newsweek, just published something saying that there are 600, organizations, pro-Chinese communist organizations run by Chinese communist government. They're trying to subvert the United States. Yeah, they're doing that exactly, right? So the forces of communism, represented by the Chinese Communist Party, is trying to change the landscape of American politics. So it's really truly a fight between good and evil, right? Communism and the free world. Okay? Recently, I watched a video by a Chinese, you can see a Chinese social media personnel, right? She said she is an expert on global affairs, and in her video, she classified Trump supporters into four categories. Okay? And the first category of Trump supporters is that they're from the U.S. Midwest, from the Rust Belt. They are the victims of globalization, right? Because President Trump brought back the manufacturers to the United States, and also built a wall, separating U.S. with Mexico. So these people, many blue collars, they support Trump. Okay? That's first category. Second group are the second is the white collars people, white collars executives in American companies, because of the tax reduction policy of President Trump, and their businesses, the companies benefit from that. That's why they support Trump. Okay? The third group is those people who are the conservatives, right? And they are more like evangelicals or people from the Bible Belt. They love the fact that Trump is going back to the Bible, to the Christian tradition, and therefore they support Trump. Okay? And the fourth group, according to her, this columnist in China, is that there are people in America who are not happy with the corruption of the elite. It's like the Washington, swamp. They're unhappy with that. They don't like the fact those politicians are not never keep their promises, and therefore they're tired and fed up with that. Therefore, they support Trump. Okay? I found this commentator from mainland China to be quite, interesting, and some of her points are actually pretty good, making sense, okay? And good observation. But I believe because of where she is coming from, what kind of things she was using to make her judgment, I think there are some biases there. But at least this, her view reflects the view of the Chinese intellectuals toward American election. Under the condition of current Chinese government control of media and all the information. Okay? But if you combine the first and second group of people in her classification, that's virtually the whole business in the industrial world of America, because those people from blue collar to white collar executives that cuts through, the whole entire society, right? And the fourth group, the people who are unhappy with the Washington swamp, I believe they are also cutting through, different strata of American society. So basically, with the exception of the third group, she identified. That's the conservatists and Bible Belt people, people with the traditional Christian Christianity views, or evangelicals. Right? Other than that category, the other analysis of this Chinese expert doesn't seem to be able to get to the essence of American system, American society. It seems to me, in my opinion. In fact, if you look at all those analyses about the elections, about voters, American public, by think tanks, by polling, research agencies, academic groups, when they analyze the support for Trump or Biden, they're mostly using things like looking at things such as gender, race, age, and level of education, and voting history, right? To categorize two group of people, right? But when what they neglect to see, what is neglected by these researchers, I believe, is that the Trump supporters are actually cutting through the whole entire strata of our society. Right? The analysis from all those agencies, the think tanks, or social research groups, or academia, they just mostly use income and education, the two most important, the most frequently used socioeconomic factor in demographics, right, to consider, right? And basically, they're looking at the Trump versus Biden issue from the perspective of materialism and interest, and vested interests, right? They didn't consider other factors. One factor I believe they truly skipped or neglected was the human nature and the spiritual aspect of America, right? And not just from in other words, the spiritual realm of American people, or their religions and beliefs, okay? Or from Eastern perspective, from Asian Eastern perspective, we call this the Buddha nature or divine nature of human being. I think all the researchers' studies overlook this aspect. Okay? And so these are the things that pertaining to our inner pursuit in our spirituality. Okay? I believe that both the scholars from China and some scholars from America, they didn't really, look at the American election or American voters from that perspective. Okay? Of course, when you talk about the people's belief, personal belief or religion, their spiritual world, this is something quite sensitive. Many people don't want to talk about that, right? Especially if you want to be politically correct, you don't want to touch those kind of issues. Okay? That's where I want to give a try and do a little bit of research on this. Right? I have a Twitter account, personal Twitter account, right? And I did a simple poll to see, among my followers, right? How many people are in support of President Trump, and how many in support of Vice President Biden. Okay? And but not only that, I also want to find out among the supporters of Trump or Biden, what's their spiritual world or their religion or belief, right? And also that their spirituality doesn't have anything to do with who they support. I have to say that this is not a very strict, very scientific, strict survey research. Because from research design perspective, the sample I have is not a random sample, no way random sample, right? It's just a convenience sample, right? But my sample itself is pretty big. I have almost 3,000 people. Right? So statistically speaking, the error should be minimal. Right? Should be not that big. So we can view this as a simple explorative, research. Okay? More people can do more research based on that. Okay. And also, I have about 10,000 followers on my Twitter account. Okay? Of the 10,000 followers, about 21% of them are from China, mainland China. Okay? I can find that out from the stats, right? And 42% of them are from over 60 countries all over the world, right? And only about 37% of them are from America, right? So in other words, for those people who are either in support of Trump or Biden, they are not American voters, but just people, I don't know who they are, to be honest with you, right? And also this my little survey, my little poll here has been retweeted many times by many followers, right? So I don't know what kind of people. There could be people outside of my followers circle who also participate in this poll, okay? Because I want to make sure. Okay? The poll started in mid-October, right? I opened for 1 week. Okay. At end of the week, I had 2,785 people voting, okay? And the response rate is about 28%. Not too bad. Okay. And the question in the survey, in the poll, is very simple. Yeah. In Chinese, and there's an English title, which is which describes you? Which describes you? Pick one. Okay. Basically, there are 4 categories. The Twitter account only allows you to have 4 categories to have a poll. Right. The first category, supporting Biden, theist, and people with believers, theists. Okay. And second category, supporting Biden, atheist, agnostics. Okay. The third category, supporting Trump, theist, and believers. And fourth category, supporting Trump, atheist, agnostics. Okay. And the final response when the poll closed after a week, I had 2,785 votes. Okay. And of the votes, 1.9% said, they support Biden and they are believers or atheists, theists. Okay. 3.0% support Biden, they're atheists and agnostics. Okay. And 63.4% said they support Trump, they are theists and believers. And 31.7% said they support Trump, they're atheists and agnostics. Right? I'm going to have the table, ask people to put this table on the screen so you can see. Right? So from this data, you can see that the total supporters of Trump is 95%. Right? 95%. That's 63.4 plus 31.7%, 95%. And the ones who support Biden is 5%. That's 1.9% plus 3%. Right? And among Trump supporters, the ratio of believers versus atheists is 2 to 1. Okay? Among Biden supporters, the atheists to believers, the ratio of atheists to believers, okay, is 3 to 2. Okay, you can see from that. And 95% people are in support of Trump, 5% in support of Biden. This is not too surprising. Yeah. The 2 reasons at least. The first reason being similar posts on social media like Twitter's, I found that's all show that there are between 70 to 90% people who are supporting Trump. Okay? And 10 to 30% people who are in support of Biden. So this kind of number is quite common, right? My poll is no exception. Okay, that's first reason. The second reason I think is because in the tweets I have, or and I retweeted tweets I retweeted and shows my tendency towards voting for Trump. Okay, So therefore, my followers probably are more likely to be pro-Trump and pro-GOP, and then those supporters of Biden, and they may not want to follow me, or they may just unfollow me. Right? But I do have many Biden supporters among my followers. Right? But my true purpose of this research, this little research, is not to simply find out how many people are supporting either Trump or Biden, or the ratio of that. Is not that. Why the real purpose and real goal of this little research is to find out, for those people who are either supporting one or the other, what about their support of either this candidate or the other candidate has something to do with the spiritual world, with their belief, where their belief in God, heaven, or Buddha, right? Or in divinity. Right? So I want to find out if the people's belief and their choice of candidate, the two factors are related to each other. Okay? That's what I really want to find out, right? And I want to find out if there is any correlation or relationship between a person's belief and person's voting tendency. Okay? In business and social research, to test to see if two classification categories are interdependent, or dependent on each other, or interdependent, or if they are correlated, we can use Pearson's chi-square test to analyze. Okay? And that's the Pearson's chi-square test compares, the match between the theoretical frequencies versus the expected frequencies with observed frequencies. Okay? And if we use the data I just showed you, the null hypothesis being, and the support for a certain candidate has nothing to do with his or her belief. Okay? And H1 would be the alternative hypothesis should be, there's a relationship between support of a certain candidate and the person's belief. Right? I chose the significance level alpha at 0.05, or 95%, which is commonly used. And this table shows the results of this analysis, chi-squared tests. Okay? You can see this is believers, atheists, marginal column totals, then column for Trump, column for Biden, and the column for marginal row totals. Okay? The chi-square statistic is 43.7999. The p-value is less than 0.00001. So it's significant at a p less than 0.05. Very significant. Okay? With the chi-square statistic with the Yates correction is 42.5859. Okay? The p-value is less than 0.00001 and significant at p less than 0.05. So basically, from my little research, the Pearson chi-square test result shows that among all these about 3,000 people in an analysis of their personal belief and their voting tendency, at 95% confidence level, right? People who are in support of Trump are more likely to be theists and people who have beliefs or believers. And people who are in support of Biden are more likely to be atheists and agnostics. In other words, whether people believe in God or not, believe in Buddha or not, or have belief or not, right? And which candidate they choose to support, these two factors are correlated, right? And the relationship with the dependence between the two variables from statistics perspective has a very high significance, right? And the possibility that this significance is incorrect is less than 0.001%. Okay? So it seemed to me through this little research, simple little research, we can see that if you want to observe the U.S. election today, this year, right, this year's election, right, which is 3 days away from today, okay, and you want to find out, what kind of people are in support of which candidate, we really need to look at the voters, the spiritual world, the spiritual realm, and their religious belief, or their belief, their attitude toward higher level beings. If you look at things, the candidates, or the voters from that perspective, I think we'll probably be less prone to be making mistakes. That's my observation on this issue here. And this is the end of this episode of Opinions New by Frank. Thank you. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.